Okay, everybody, what is going on? Good evening. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. And I had some incorrect information yesterday. Thought that there was going to be no practice today. As it turns out, there was a practice today. So we do have some stuff to talk about, which is good because not a lot happened today otherwise. So I wouldn't really have anything to discuss if we didn't have at least some kind of a practice today. Although it should be said, no padded practice, no pads, so definitely lighter than the last couple of days. Definitely a good amount more chill. And with that, there's also going to be a little bit less you can take away from whatever happens. Also, no Curtis Allen this time around. Curtis Allen said he's taking a break, and he's like the one guy that I'm aware of that really gets into the play-by-play of training camp and passes it along to the general public. So, tragic loss, but nevertheless, we got some stuff. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So today was day 7, and given the two things I just said, we're not going to have a ton to go over, but let's go over what there is to go over. So first, before we get onto the on-field stuff, the Seahawks did make a roster move earlier today. They signed a linebacker, Joseph Vaughn, I'm not sure. Joseph V is a new member of the Seattle Seahawks, and Jamarcus Weston was waived. Apparently, he's hurt right now in a corresponding move. So swap out one linebacker for another. Now, I wish I could tell you about Joseph Vaugh, but there's really very little to say. He was a starting linebacker at Yale for 3 years. Then he transferred to UCLA for his final season in college and barely played. He was active, but he just didn't get on the field very much in 2024. And I believe he was with the Colts last offseason. And then he didn't make the team before camp. And now he's on our team. So not really much to say here. Very, very, very hard to imagine him making the team, but we need a guy to hang around while we need the 90 players. So that is really about all I can say about that. Don't really have a lot of information here, and I don't think we need it. Nevertheless, little roster move there. Now, as for camp, first, the injury stuff. Julian Neal still out. Mike Morris being held out today. J.R. Singleton, same. Chris Paul Jr. And those 3 guys, I believe, were okay yesterday, so that's new. Now, remember, it is a non-padded practice, so there's a good chance they're not taking it super seriously, but still notable. Jamie Sheriff, Jared Ivey, 2 guys that do need these reps, so hopefully they get back quickly. Jake Bobo still out, so he is dealing with something that is at least noticeable. Robbie Oots was also out of practice today. I believe he was in practice yesterday, so that is a new one. And of course, Charbonnet and Eman Wari still on the PUP. So that's the injury situation right now. A little bit longer than it was yesterday. The good news is 2 guys that left practice early yesterday and may have concerned some people practice today. So they're fine. Ernest Jones was one of them. And I mean, that's a big one. And then the other one was Anthony Bradford. So both those guys gave us a little bit of an injury scare yesterday, but they both practiced today. So nothing really to worry about. And overall, I still don't think there's really a lot to worry about overall when it comes to the injuries on this team. The disappointment is guys like Julian Neal who need these reps and are not getting them because they're on the bench. Okay, so I believe that is, yeah, all the injury stuff we've got. So pretty light today, not a lot of new information, but things are chugging along as they normally are. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today, and remember to always gamble responsibly. So as for on-field stuff, like I said, it's going to be pretty light today. There was some Jadarian Price going through pass protection gauntlet drills. There was this little clip circulating. And this is kind of the final piece at this point, right? Everything we're hearing about Price has been as about as positive as you could have hoped for, right? Everything we're hearing about Jadarian Price is he looks as good or better than we expected in all areas. If he can pass protect, if he can block, then you've got a complete back. And this is something that he did not do in college. And unlike the pass catching stuff, which felt a little bit more situational, the pass protection stuff actually felt like because they thought he wasn't very good at it. Because in passing situations, they would often have their third string running back on the field instead of Love or Price. And what that tells you is that they didn't love the ability of Love or Price to actually hold up in blocking. So if he can actually pick this stuff up, and I wouldn't expect him to pick it up immediately because it's not an easy thing to do, but if he can pick this up, then he's got pretty much everything other than maybe like extremes, right? He doesn't have extreme speed or extreme power, but he has those things in decent amounts at least. George Halani doing the Shalom drill was another clip that I definitely noticed throughout yesterday, or excuse me, today. And this is kind of like the other half of it, right? Halani, we really seem to like him as a receiver, and we really, really like him as a blocker. Can he pick up the actual running with the ball stuff? That's the thing that I don't know if it's there or not. But again, if he can actually prove that he can be a productive running back, which is to me the thing that is missing here, really, then you have another complete running back. And as much as it looks like our running back situation is way worse than it was last year, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure it still is worse. But if we're able to put multiple guys on the field that can excel in several different situations, passing downs, running downs, blocking reps, then that is a level of versatility and adaptability that we did not have even last year, as good as our running backs were last year. Horton was one of the stars of the day. Torrey Horton was one of the big shots of the day. This was his fourth straight practice, so looks like he's completely healthy and had a lot of action today. There was this clip of him catching an out route by Corbin, and by the end of the day, my understanding is that he had caught either 2 or 3 touchdowns in scrimmage. According to Greg Bell, Horton had 2 touchdowns on consecutive 11-on-11 drives. And according to Corbin, he had 3, I think. The way he worded it is a little bit ambiguous, but I believe that what he's saying is that Horton had 3 touchdowns and Arroyo had 3 touchdowns. Maybe he means Horton had 2 and Arroyo had 1. Regardless, though, Horton continues to not only be healthy, but look good. And remember, he's doing receiver stuff and special team stuff. Kick return, punt return, you name it, he's doing it. And we knew that he was kind of a red zone guy. We knew that he was somebody who was really good around the end zone. But I am starting to wonder if we're going to be able to keep him off the field, because I've said before that you've got way too much talent in JSN and Shaheed to take reps away from those guys. And then you've got Cup, who is going to need his reps too. But I'm wondering if maybe Horton's just a little too good to be pushed into a full-time number 4 role. Because if you're the number 4 receiver in this offense, you don't get on the field much. So I don't know exactly where this is going, but Horton was probably the big winner of the day, along with Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo got several rave reviews from people who watched camp today. Had a touchdown, had several other big plays. The touchdown that Arroyo got came from Darnold. Shaheed also had a touchdown, by the way, so he seemed to have another good day too. But Arroyo, this is kind of a big one. Presumably, one of the big reasons why you hired a guy like Brian Fleury to call your offense is because you want Arroyo to be more than he was last year. Last year, he was very minimal impact. But if Arroyo can take advantage of this opportunity and develop his game under a former tight end coach, somebody who coached George Kittle for years and helped bring about Jake Tonges last year when Kittle was hurt, then that is a dimension to this offense that we didn't really have last year. We had Arroyo, but he got hurt, and he didn't make a big impact when he was playing anyway. So the Arroyo thing to me was probably the biggest the biggest attention grabber along with Horton. And this is what it's all about. It sounds like this is 2 days in a row now where number one, Arroyo has looked good, but number two, tight ends and fullbacks in general have been utilized heavily. This may become one of the most tight end heavy offenses in football, right? This may end up being a team that uses tight ends almost as much as the Rams do. And last year, we were a pretty tight end heavy team anyway. So if we continue to advance along that line in 2026, then you're at the top. And Arroyo's advancement to where we trust him to play more than 20 snaps a game is going to decide everything, because Eric Saubert is going to be a valuable player for us, but not a dynamic playmaker. Bud Clark also played with the first team quite a bit. Julian Love got the day off. He wasn't hurt or anything. He got a veteran rest day. You know, he got what do they call it? Management. What do they call it in basketball? Shoot. Hold on. Load management. I don't know why I forgot that. That was bad. Like load management. But yeah, Bud Clark got some reps with the first team. So that's 2 days in a row, I think, where he's gotten action with the first team for different reasons. But again, we are seeing him show that he's ready. He is ready. And that's what happens when you start in college for 6 years or whatever it was. All right. So good news there. We also got some more hype on Byron Murphy from Gray Zabel. He actually gave a podium interview where he said a lot of good things about Murphy. Apparently Murphy is just whipping people. Christian Haynes beating him up, beating up Gray Zabel, beating up anybody he goes up against on the interior, it seems like. And Zabel actually gave a really good answer on why Murphy is so good at getting to the quarterback, because obviously he has been, for the most part in the NFL, a nose tackle. So the fact that he is able to get to the quarterback the way that he does is especially incredible. And he basically gave a really detailed answer on his skill set and how he does what he does. So that was really cool to hear. Really cool to hear Zabel really kind of dig into that. Cool stuff there. Oh, I'm sorry. Autoplay. But I think there's a way to turn off autoplay on X, but I've never looked for it. I should probably do that because this happens constantly. But speaking of Bud Clark, apparently he got to talk a little bit with Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman allowed him to wear his number, and I'm starting to get that really good feeling about Clark. I'm starting to really feel like he's going to force his way onto the field sooner rather than later, and all the energy that I'm getting out of this is good so far. And look, I know it's training camp, but sometimes, and I think you guys will know what I'm talking about, sometimes the energy coming off these rookies in training camp is not very good, right? Like sometimes we go into training camp and we're tracking these rookies, and even from a far off perspective where we don't necessarily have all the information, you can kind of feel like, this isn't going so well so far. And that's not the case with Clark or, while we're here, Jadarian Price. The vibes are all good. So generally speaking, if you was to talk about today in a more overall sense, it felt like today was about the offense. The offense did really good today. It was probably the best day of the year so far, or not year, but season or training camp for the offense. And it's kind of expected that the defense is ahead of the offense when training camp starts. But now it seems like things are starting to flip a little bit, and the offense is starting to do a little bit more. And my hope is that it's because they're doing things that the other side is not ready for, because Fleury is implementing some things that are going to take teams off guard. So encouraging day overall, but pretty light. Don't have a ton of info beyond that. Wish I had a little bit more, but the vibes are good, people. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Tomorrow we'll find stuff to talk about, but it's a no practice day, I believe. So there may not be a lot, but I will see you guys later. Go Hawks, and everyone have a good rest of your evening.